Hi Flosstube, my name is Karen and I'm the recovering monogamous stitcher. I live in central Kentucky and this is my first Flosstube video. My channel is going to be mainly about cross stitch, also about quilting, also about other sewing projects that I do. So you're probably thinking, why is there another Flosstuber? Every day we see new number one video, Flosstube. There's so many new stitchers participating in Flosstube. So what's the value added? Well, for me, it's the communication and the two-way communication. Since I've been watching Flosstube, I've met so many stitchers and feel like I've gotten to know them, but there's no two-way communication. Especially if I'm watching the videos on the television, I can't type a comment back, and I tend not to remember to type comments anyway. I grew up in the television world where you just sat and watched television, and so anyway. I'd love to get some communication going with other stitchers and make closer connections to stitchers who stitch things that I also love to stitch. So as I said, I've been watching Flosstube for over 3 years, I know that, and have just so enjoyed and learned so much from people on Flosstube. And why did I get the name Recovering Monogamous Stitcher? Well, I chose that because I used to be a monogamous stitcher, and not because I particularly had a thing for only doing one thing at a time, but I only had one thing at a time. I never lived in an area where I had a local needle workshop, so I couldn't just go in and see all the things that were available and choose several things. I might be in W.T. Grant and see a little kit, or in Kmart and see a kit, and I'd pick it up and usually made a gift for my mother. But now with Flosstube and all these wonderful online shops I've been introduced to, oh my, it's a whole new world. The fabrics, the flosses, the designers, ay, ay, ay. It's a great world, and I hope you can make room for me in the community. So just a little bit about myself in my first video here. How did I start sewing? My mother and grandmother were great sewers. My grandmother quilted, she made clothes, she knitted, she crocheted, she did tatting, she made jewelry, she did everything. My mother sewed clothes for me and taught me how to sew clothes for myself. She loved especially knitting and crocheting. She started a quilt. She was in a sewing club and started a quilt, which I now have in my possession, and feel very guilty that I've not finished that quilt for her, but I don't like hand piecing. It's a grandmother's garden, and not an English pieced, because she didn't know about that. She had cardboard templates, traced around them, and then, as you know, cardboard templates, you trace and the size changes, and then you do a new one, and then you trace and the size changes. I don't know if I'll ever finish that one, but and I feel a little guilty about that one. So she never finished a quilt, but she did a lot of sewing and taught me a lot about sewing. When I grew up and got past making clothes for myself and clothes for my daughter, I turned my sewing attention to quilting and just made as many quilts as I could. Love quilting. I got, about 10 years ago, I got a long arm quilt machine so that I could fully finish them myself and not having to send them out. I got way beyond putting up with hand quilting. Life is too short, too many quilts and not enough time. So, and I tried quilting on my domestic machine, never got the feel of that. To me, it's like you're moving the paper underneath the pen instead of moving a pen on top of the paper. So the long arm machine is what I love to do. And I'll talk about quilts, probably a different quilt every video, and I'll talk about this one in a little bit at the end. And I will do like Olivia and the Two Tall Stitchers do, save the quilting and separate it out, so if you're not interested, you can move on. So as part of introducing myself to you, I thought I would show you some of my recent past finishes, so you can see the kind of stitching I like. And then I'll talk about Sampler September and plans and how I'm going to be moving forward with my channel. So I selected some of my finishes that I've had nicely framed that I'm most proud of, and I'll show those to you. The first one I have is Berry Bowl Sampler by Heartstring Samplery and the Scarlet House combined. This is the most personalized stitching I've done to date. I put in the initials of my special friends, and 3 of them have passed on since I've started this, so this is always going to be special. Berry Bowl Sampler. I stitched it on 36 count Stars Hollow blend. Used as many of the called for flosses as I could put my hands on. I think I may even have had all of the called for flosses for this one. Berry Bowl Sampler. I'm going to roll out of the way here. Okay, another one I did recently was Winter Rose Manor. You've all seen this, of course, designed by Brenda Gervais with the needle and thread. And I framed this exactly as Lori Holt did. Went to Hobby Lobby, got the frame. Mr. Enabler punched out the design that was in there so I could put my stitching in there, and he helped me finish it off on the back so it stays in. I did not have luck with the called for flosses on this one. I did some DMC substitutions because I couldn't find all of them. But I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And I'm going to be one of those Flosstubers who says, I just love this. Because, of course, I do. All the ones I stitch, I love. Okay. Another one I've done is Newcastle Bouquet, Teresa Kogut. This was stitched on 40 count Swigert 40 count straw, and I had almost all, I think there was one green I could not find, and I substituted a DMC. This is my first time stitching on 40 count. It was the most complicated pattern I'd ever done, and all this center stuff was, to me, was so complicated, following the pattern and all the page changes and so forth. I, for the first time, made a working copy so I could mark off with marker what I had already stitched, so I could keep track of where I was. I entered this in the Kentucky State Fair, and it got a blue ribbon, and it got Best Cross Stitch and Show. So thank you, Teresa. It was a great, great stitch. Another one I recently did was Floral Motif Sampler from the Scarlet House. I did all DMCs on this. This is stitched on, let's see what kind, 40 count prairie grass linen. And as I said, I did all DMCs. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. It's nice and bright. And I like the base fabric. I think there's just a slight little green to it, and I think it's just really pretty. So I love that one too. Another one I recently finished from the Blue Flower Huckleberry Farm by Janine McGowan. Loved stitching this one. Oh my gosh. When I saw this before market, the yellow house and that butterfly, oh my gosh, I just had to stitch it, had to do it. I was able to stitch it on the called for linen. It's 36 count shale by Picture This Plus, and I did almost all DMCs. I did use Rum Raisin and Williamsburg of Weeks Dye Works. Otherwise, they were all DMCs. So happy with the way this turned out. That border is just gorgeous. And she has a way of doing those little animals. They are so cute. So cute. Love this one. Huckleberry Farm. Okay, another one. Recently finished, Land That I Love, Teresa Kogut. Again, Teresa, wonderful, wonderful. Love the stitch. Love the stitch. Okay. I think let me check my card here. I used 40 count linen mallow, stitched 1/2. I use all DMCs. All DMCs. Again, love the motifs, love the design. Teresa just has such a way with what she designs. I love it. Love it. I was going to enter this in the state fair this year, but I ended up not going to the state fair. We had a family trip, so I didn't go to the state fair. Next year, this is entered. Okay, so those are some of the things I like. I really like samplers. I like reproduction samplers. And yet the whimsical, they're treasures too. I'm doing the Bird Crush Club with Lindy Stitches and loving that. I like hands-on design and love her clever designs. And I'm going to talk about Sampler September because this is September 1st, the day I'm recording is September 1st, and I have to make my decisions about what I'm going to do. So, in my book of days, my September, of course, is empty because it's the 1st, but I have some of my ideas here on the side. The Fat Quarter Shop is having a Mystery Sal Christmas time cross-stitch. It was delayed from July because of supply problems. So that's going to be starting up in September. I'm committed to doing that. I'll do that. I'm of course going to do my Bird Crush. I like to have one done before the next one comes. I've kept up all year with that so far, so those are priorities. I'm going to do Sampler Camp with Sherry, Colorado Cross Stitcher. I've committed to that. I made one decision about that one because I've committed to that pattern, so that decision is made. So that one is going to be, I've decided it's going to be Rosa, what's her name? Rosa Sugars. 4 years old when she did this, can you believe? 4 years old. If a 4-year-old can do it, can't any of us do it? So I'm going to be stitching that on 40 count fiber on a whim. It's a nice color, light color. And I have DMCs for that. So that's Rosa Sugars. The other sampler I'm going to work on is Rosetta Featherstone. That was my birthday start this year. So I've had some start on it. Rosetta. As I'm working on it, I'm thinking it's turning out a little brighter than I had expected. But maybe when I get that house filled in, it'll kind of tamp it down a little bit. But I think my background fabric was really too white. So when I finish stitching, I may do something. I may get really brave and do maybe a quick dunk in coffee and rinse it out and see what that does. I don't know. Tell me what you think. Do you dare do that after you've stitched and not know how it's going to turn out? I'd love to know. So that's another thing I'm going to be working on. Then I have samplers all kitted up, but I don't think I dare start any more than 2 in the month because of my previous commitments of other things, and I want to make good progress. So help me decide what ones should I do. I have from Hands-On Design, Hands Across the Sea, Rose and the Giant Pear. Love it, and I love them all. So no matter what ones I start, I'm gonna be happy, but I wanna do them all, and I want them all done now. I want my walls to look like Brenda's and Carol Saltbox. Another one I have all ready to go is Jane Hopkins, Hands Across the Sea. Look at that flower bowl, those roses. Oh, I can't wait to start that. She's beautiful. She's beautiful. I have, see what fabric did I choose? I have 40 count ivory linen. I think that's to me it looks like the picture. So I think that'll be good. And I have DMCs. I have all the DMCs, so that one is ready to go. Redbird Sampler. by With Thy Needle and Thread, Brenda Gervais. Isn't that sweet? I love the blues in those flowers in those pots. It's so different. I love it. So Redbird Sampler is ready to go. And I have the Stitch Me fabric, and it's called Grog. And I think that'll be okay. I don't know. What do you think? It looks more gray than the picture, but the flosses show up really nicely in it. So, anyway, what do you think? If it's too gray, tell me. So that's Redbird Sampler. Okay, another one I have ready to go. Hands Across the Sea. Mrs. Campbell. I'm thinking affogato fabric. Again, that's darker than the picture appears, but all of the colors are so pretty. All of these colors just really, whoop. See, I need a Brenda sitting beside me, helping me. See, all these colors are so nice and bright. I think they'll show up nicely. So that's Mrs. Campbell, another possibility for Sampler September. Okay. Lucinda Fraser, 1866. This is by Needlework Press, I think, isn't it? Yeah, Needlework Press. It has very few colors. It's just such a fun sampler. And again, I have some Bestitch Me fabric. This one is called Honey. I think it'd be a nice color. And here are the threads. I think they'll all show up. Even that yellow is going to show up. So I think that'll be nice. But again, is that going to be the one? Oh. Okay, another all kitted up is E.S. Spot. E.S. Spot, who was this by? Of Female Worth. I think it's 1884 is the name of this online. Isn't that it? Oh, I'm sorry, it's in a folder. I can't pull it out right now. E.S. Spot. I have an ivory solid, and I think this is a Lugana. It is a Lugana. Yeah. That's another possibility. I'm telling you, I love my samplers. September is going to be fun, no matter what I choose. Another With Thy Needle and Thread, Hannah Ann Wallace. For this, I have a Bestitch Me fabric called Vintage. And I have mostly DMC. I have a few of the classic colorworks called for that one. It's another possibility. Okay, Scarlet House. Oops, bag in a bag, how ridiculous. Little Deeds sampler. And I have a chunk that was left from something else. This is 36 count natural. And that's a small one, so that's very doable. Another Scarlet House. I think this is Little Red Chair. Little Red Chair sampler, yeah. Another sweet one. I think I have all the weeks, and there's one DMC, the 310 DMC is called for, but I have all the weeks for that one. And the fabric I picked out is called Vintage Meadow Rue, Lakeside. So that's another fun one. Another one is Scarlet House again. Entwined Hearts. I was thinking about doing this as a Valentine's Day start, but I had so many things going, I just didn't dare start another one. But I have the fabric called for, the Aztec Red. Aztec Red, and I have the threads. There aren't very many colors. Okay. Another possibility is Cathcart Cocoon from Shakespeare's Peddler. That was out at the last market. Isn't that wonderful? I love that. Love it. I have DMCs for that project, and what did I pick out for the linen? This is a 20 count Ada, so it's equal to a 40 count linen, but it's Ada. I like the color. I think the color looks quite like picture. So I think that'll work out okay. Okay. I have Caroline Amelia Trowell, another Brenda Gervais with the needle and thread. Somebody, who just finished this one? Is it Brenda? No. Yeah, I think so. I think Brenda finished this one. And I have all the called for threads. Oh, that thread ring opened up. And I have the called for fabric, 40 count. I can't read it. I got it from Shepherd's Needle, and it was the called for the pattern, so whatever that was. Okay, another possibility is Stacy Nash. Rose Cottage sampler. I have 36 count Confederate Gray. And the DMCs. And again, that'll be a smaller sampler. That looks good to me. I tell you, I love the samplers. Okay, Harriet Goddard, Hands Across the Sea. Love the shape of that one. What a nice contrast to all the square. Isn't that cool? Again, I have DMCs. What's this fabric? Ooh, there's no note on it. Huh, it must not have come with a note because I always leave the note on it. Wait, it's in here. Newcastle 40 count platinum. That's what it is, 40 count platinum. So that's Harriet Goddard. Another Hands Across the Sea possibility. Next one is Ann Kirby. This was an exclusive from Hobby House Needleworks in New York. Love it. Needlework Press is the designer. So I have all of, you know, I got the whole thing, got the kit. I have the fabric and all the called for threads. This should be a fun one. Okay. Okay. That's Ann Kirby. And the last one, Scarlet House. Plastic, sticking on plastic. Roses for Ruby. Love that. Love, love. The fabric I have for that is, must have come from Kit and Stitcher, 36 count hog bristle. That's Fox and Rabbit. And I have the DMCs. One more kitted up. I have sampler patterns that aren't kitted yet, so so this is just part of it. Oh, I did this one. This is Ann Kirby. Okay, so that was the last one. So I have all those choices. I have two for sure. It's going to be Rosa Sugars and Rosetta Featherstone. If I only add two, which two would you do? Any? I mean, I'd love them all. So if somebody else makes the decision for me, that'll help, because I can be flitting back and forth and never making a decision because it's too hard. So, okay, that's Sampler September. Got to get some decisions made on that. And let's see. Oh, my red sampler. I always, like Brenda says, always have a red sampler in the works. I have one from JBW Designs, the Antique Collection 2. I'm doing Helen Schnorr, which I can't show you, but it's this one. Anyway, and I had 3 stitching days. I try to do every month 3 stitching days on a red sampler. A full 7 days on my focus piece, which is always my oldest whip. And then I apportion out days for the other things I plan for the month. Okay, so this is 3 days. So the calendar days went by, but I didn't have a lot of stitching time. So I have one whole row done and just to start on the next one. So that's my red sampler that's currently in the works. And that takes care of September. Let's see. Oh, the quilt. Let me talk to you about the quilt. This quilt is called Halo Medallion, and it was designed by Sue Garman, G-A-R-M-A-N, in 2017, and it was a project with the Quilt Show with Alex Anderson and Ricky Timms. I bought the fabric from them, and paper piecing. It'll either kill you or cure you, I'll tell you. That was a lot of piecing. But what I like most is doing the custom quilting. So I just feathered the heck out of it. Feathers, feathers, feathers. Feathers going around, 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 and around corners and at the edges. And this one, I did enter in the State Fair, Kentucky State Fair in 2019, and it did get Best of Show. So I'm really proud of this. This is the best I've done ever in anything. So that's my proudest quilt. So we'll start with the proudest and then work our way down or something like that. But I have lots of quilts. I have quilts in my closet that my grandmother made. I have, you know, tons of quilts and projects that I've made, whether they're full size or down to table runners or lap quilts and things like that. So I'll plan to show something different in every Flosstube, some quilt that I've made. With the exception that we're now at the time of our lives where we winter in Florida. So we live in Kentucky and winter in Florida. So when we go to Florida, I won't have a bunch of quilts to show. I may take one to hang on the wall down there or something, but there won't be a lot of quilts to show. But so my concentration in the winter is cross stitching because I'm away from my big machine and my good sewing machine. I just have a basic machine down there to do whatever I need to do. So my plan is to come back in a couple weeks, and at that time I'll show my whips and talk about my quilting rotation, how I make my plans for the month and lay out my plans. And I'll show some more of my past finishes, maybe some things that are not in frames, some stand-ups and flat folds and things like that. So I hope you found something of interest, and if you liked it, I would love it if you would hit the like button. And if you are so inclined, if you would subscribe and hit the bell so that you're notified when I put up another video. So thanks so much for stopping by. I hope to see you again in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.